Happy Father's Day, fathers. Great honor to be speaking to you today on Father's Day, and it's a great honor to be a father. Sorry about this. I could not find a place to park, and there it is. I'll tell you, on that thing about the traffic tickets and all that, since I became a teaching pastor here, I have not gotten a ticket. But when I was in California, I received a congratulations letter from the California Highway Patrol congratulating me on being one of the few people that make it dangerous for other people to ride, and asking me to consider what it's like to have a driver's license revoked and not be able to drive myself anywhere. So I probably would have won that competition. But I can't go anywhere and do anything rude anymore, as you know, because there's always somebody there that says, oh yeah, aren't you the preacher guy? But let me tell you, today we're going to take a little journey here. We're going to talk about racing. I turned in this outline really early, of course, and so when you do, yeah, thank you. That is an accomplishment for a guy like me. But when I did turn it in early, and I talked about wanting to talk about racing, well, you can't really do that without mentioning the fact that Indy 500 here. So we're not confused. We know this is not race weekend. But I looked in the Bible, and there's no place that talks about Indy 500 racing. So I'm going to talk about foot racing, but first I'm going to talk a little bit about the Indy 500. And because we're a racing community. I was raised in Texas, and I probably watched more live races on TV than people have seen live races here, because you have to listen on radio. I didn't realize that till I got here. And I was a big, huge race fan, and I absolutely loved it. I got a birthday on Monday, so I've been reminiscing about my past, and I was looking at some old, remembering those old races I used to watch, and they exceeded speeds of 70 miles an hour back then. It was quite amazing. But this is a triple dog weekend for me to get to preach, Father's Day, birthday, tomorrow. But let me tell you something. There are two professions that if you are a man and you're in this profession, you don't have to prove yourself. One would be a cowboy. The other would be a race car driver. Nothing to prove. Great courage. There's a third one. Preachers. But anyway, why are you laughing? All right. So I was also thinking what it must be like if you're like Marco Andretti or somebody, and the day after the Indy 500, you realize, I got to go take the family car in for an oil change. Can you imagine the chaos when you pull up at Jiffy Lube? They're thinking, we got to get him in and out in 47 seconds, or he's going to be disappointed in the service. Then they're all wanting to work in his pit crew, so it becomes Mechanics Got Talent. I mean, that must be quite an experience just to be a race car driver in real life. Well, today we're going to talk about real life, and I wanted to just show one race where a father raced the Indy 500 against his son. 1992, watch this. He wins by 0.043 tenths of a hundredths of a second. If he had eaten, Goodyear had eaten one less egg, I think he would have won that race or something. But anyway, that race was the closest finish ever, and it was the first time a second-generation race family member had beaten first generation. Now, that wasn't father-son at the end there, but Al Sr. was in that race. Well, that's the way it ought to be. Us dads, us fathers, we ought to be in the race, running the race, so that when our kids come up, they win a better, faster, stronger race. So today I want to talk to us, I'm talking to myself, of course, I do that a lot, about being a father. And, I have seen some great races in my day. We're kind of a racing family. I show you a picture of our boys. I say our, this is Carter, my bonus son, and James, and their dad sitting right down there with them. And Carter was a sprinter. He had the school record for a long time. James, long distance runner, went to state. He did a lot of running at the Carmel campus here at our cross-country course, went to state championships. And so when I was going to speak on racing, I went to James, and I said, James, I need the best advice you've ever heard or given about running the race. I want to speak about that. And he gave me 5 points, and they're in your outline. So today, a lot of times preachers are speaking from the book of James. I'm speaking from the bonus son, James. That's the source of my text today. But look at this first verse. And by the way, I love it the way Mark Kroll last week did all this stuff, and Steve Poe does it. The team has asked me to step away from the screen. I do not do well with it, so I'm not going to do that. But I can read. Don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. I'm not just shadowboxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified. Now, I love that last part because I got to tell you, whenever you preach, I've heard it over and over, whenever you're doing your best, you are most vulnerable to Satan. I think Paul was kind of addressing that. I don't want to be preaching out there and then all of a sudden somebody pulls my chariot over, I think he was saying, for speeding or something. Well, if you're ever going to see me out there speeding around, it's probably right after the greatest sermon of my life. And that's a message for all of us dads. At the greatest moments, we become targets, and Satan does not want us to succeed. Now, we want to run to win, as it said there in that verse, and we want to run with purpose and build strength and train, and there's no better human race coach than the Apostle Paul. Look at Hebrews 12:1. He says this, "Therefore, since we're surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let's strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up." Can you imagine somebody sprinting with 2 suitcases? I doubt there's any chance they're going to win carrying baggage down that 100 or 200 meter sprint. But we do it all our lives. We carry baggage around with us from our past, or fears about the future, or just the sins that can so easily weight us down. And Paul's saying, hey, if you're going to run this race, how about do it by stripping off everything possible? And so that's what we're going to try to do right here. And look at this proverb here. Proverbs 6:16 says there's 6 things that the Lord hates. I won't list those. Then it says, no, 7 that he detests. Feet, number 7, feet that race to do wrong. Some of us are lined up the opposite direction. We're headed toward wrong, and we think we're so right. And so here in Proverbs, we're told to look at how you're lined up. You're probably not going to do well if you're headed exactly the wrong direction. So let me talk to you about running a race according to the book of my bonus son, James. First thing he said was, you have to have a plan, and you have to stick with the racing plan. Now, a lot of us have plans, but it's important that our plan is also part of God's plan. If you look up at this verse, Ephesians 2:10, it says, for we're God's masterpiece. He's created us anew in Christ Jesus so that we can do good things he planned long ago for us. The verse right before that, in my attention deficit mind, is also, I've observed something under the sun. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race. Because in our arrogance, we get off of the plan. Our plan, God's plan. And so we want to stick to the plan. Now, one of the races that I'll never forget is when James was running track and he did the 800, the 4x800 relay. And he had a plan, restrain himself. Hey, fathers, aren't we called to restrain ourselves? He wanted to finish strong. When he gets the baton, he's running neck and neck with this other guy, and they have to go around that track 2 times. Very tough to do. You could see the other guy as he's approaching that first stretch. He goes around the track, and he's going to run in front of the stands. You could see him want to be in front of James coming around that first time. And he edges up, and he gets in front of James, and he gets all the cheers, and I'm just sitting there wondering, is James going to stick to his plan? Or is he going to overpower and have nothing left at the end? James is one great guy. And he did exactly what he planned to do. And so here's this guy leading the way all the way around the track again. And by the time he gets here, you see, he doesn't have it, and James does, and boom, James passes him and wins the race because of the ability and the willingness to stick to the plan. Restrain yourself to finish strong. Is there any father here that can't relate to that need for restraint? There's so many temptations, so many things that we can do, but the person that can restrain themselves finishes strong. Second thing, be aware and alert. If you're not aware and alert, somebody will box you in, or they'll trip you up in the race, or you'll get out of your lane. We can't just run. We have to be alert. And so in this world, of course, Satan is doing all sorts of stuff. And by the way, I really do believe in Satan. I really do think that there's an evil force in this world that will, in the most subtle ways, trip us up. And so we got to be alert for our own problems. We have to stay free of pornography so that we can honor our wives and daughters. We have to do that so that we can help our sons not fall victim, and our daughters, to pornography. We have to be the one with healthy friends so that we can model having healthy, positive relationships with other people. My father was just a great father. I wear two-tone shoes in his honor on Father's Day because that's what he wore, two-tone shoes. And he was so amazing. You know, he was corny like many fathers. He would say, hey, I get this poetry thing. Stuff means other stuff. I mean, he just thought that was hilarious to let us know what poetry was all about. He would say things like, a flock of bird dogs just flew over. Did you guys see that? He would ask us what to name someone who was born with a rubber toe. Roberto. I mean, that's the kind of thing. He'd say, I'm going to teach you about taxes, and I'm going to eat 38% of your ice cream right now to teach you how taxes work. He was an amazing dad. One of the things that he didn't do, though, is that he didn't protect me from everything. Like my grandfather, Dad Art, we would go to his house, and he loved his whiskey. Well, one day, I'm about 4 years old, and I come down with a sore throat. Well, Dad Art takes rock candy, puts it in a jar with his whiskey, and shakes it up until the rock candy dissolves and creates a cough syrup that he gives to me. I have never felt so good in my life. I had found a new way of living. So every time I would go to grandfather's house, I would get a scratchy throat on the way there. I always had a sore throat at his house. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that I don't drink anymore, but I'm just saying, Dad wasn't quite alert and aware fully on everything that was influencing me. Fathers, we have to be alert. And we have to be alert, especially for our children. Now, look, you got to give me 5 minutes here for a little diversion. I didn't mean to be talking about what I'm about to talk about, okay? But when you turn in the outline early, you're thinking about the stuff. So last weekend, my wife and I, we go to a dance recital. And I'm thinking about being alert. I look at the program, and there's a song that some 8 and 9-year-old kids are going to dance to. The title of the song is Satan's Little Lamb. And I'm thinking, wow, what is that going to be? Well, the lyrics that were blaring through the loudspeaker, the lyrics that these little girls practiced to probably 250 times, I won't read all of them, but some of them are, give me gin to forget the sinner that I am, because I'm only Satan's little lamb. 9, 10-year-old little girls. Give me thrills that break the 10 commandments with a wham, because it's heads he wins and tails you lose when you're Satan's little baby lamb. For it's glory, glory while I'm living, purgatory when I'm gone, and what a welcome I'll be given when my soul marches on. Heidi-ho, while I'm waiting for that fatal telegram. When I go, the little daisies won't care who I am, because it's tails he wins, heads you lose. When you're Satan's little, troublemaking, heartbreaking, good-for-nothing lamb. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you have a daughter, fathers, and she's coming home telling you, I'm dancing to Satan's little lamb, and you look up the lyrics, you can't let that happen. I am not anti-dance. I dance, not very well. That's why I take dance lessons. My dance coach is here today. I'm not anti-dance. I don't want you to pull your kids out of dance. I want you to go to your dance coach or instructor or owner and say, there are 97 million songs that you can choose. Literally, a little over 97 million songs that you can choose today to dance to in the world. We do not have to pick Satan's little lamb for our 8 and 9-year-old. Do you agree with me on that? Am I? Okay, so the whole thing wasn't all bad. There were some, and the skill of these dancers, oh my goodness. The ballet, these pirouettes that were in sync were mesmerizing. It was fantastic. But then many of the moves were sexualized moves. And so I was so offended. I did a little research and I said, are we the only ones that see that this might not be good for little girls to be dancing in this sexualized? I am not anti-dance. I am anti-sexualizing children very early on. You understand the difference? I'm not anti. It's an art form. Okay, so listen to this. Dr. Tommy Ann Roberts, this only takes another 2 more minutes. I'll get back to my sermon. Dr. Tommy Ann Roberts, professor of psychology in Colorado, she says this: sexualized dance puts the dancer in a unique relationship to the audience. She's displaying the body and movements to the audience in such a way that the audience is compelled to view the movements as an invitation to sexuality. Roberts explains that this happens because the movements themselves, the music lyrics, and the dancer engaging in a kind of eye contact with the viewer, and that eye contact does not vary. It is, I see you seeing me move my body in a sexual way. And the problem comes that the sexualized dance objectifies the body. The movements in the body are now separated from the person, the dancer. When we objectify another human being, we treat them like a thing or a tool for our own gain. When studios and conventions make money off children's sexualized dancing, the audience claps the loudest to such dances. Or when you view YouTube videos of children performing highly sexualized dances, and those garner the most views and likes, those children's bodies are being used and exploited. And then another psychologist says that when adolescents dance in a sexualized manner, they learn that they are sexual beings and get attention for their ability to perform dance pieces, which then become attached to their identity and self-concept. The more attention they get in dancing in that manner, the more they will continue engaging in that behavior. The older they get, they begin to see themselves and their body as objects and do not have an embodied sense of identity. And it results in an imbalance in the development of identity. They're drawn to the attention they receive, the images they see. They begin to make association as to who they need to be in order to be accepted. And that drives the development of identity more so than their own inner discovery. And this other psychologist says the least that we could do is this. We could go to those choreographers because it's character over choreography. And we could ask them, could you do some creative, appropriate moves that aren't hyper-sexualized, that highlight the strength of our young girls, the creativity of our young girls? It's the least that we could do. And if you're a Christian parent, I think it's the least that you could do. My wife and I mean, we wrote a letter. She spent about 30 hours on this letter to the head of that studio. I won't tell you all about the response. We just wanted to meet with her and just say, hey, have you thought about this? She said, I don't want to meet with you. But I got to read you just one quote. It says this: I can tell you for certain that none of the parents whose dancers were in this company and performing those routines feel the same way you do. Look, I get it. You don't know what you don't know. There are all sorts of articles about former dancers who didn't know and they got educated. Educate the people in charge of the dance, that's all I'm saying. And it's not coming from some anti-dance wackadoo here. I believe in the art of dancing. Okay, I'm done now. We're going to move on, okay? Thank you for letting me just share that with you. Okay, dads, we have to be alert. Second, the third thing is it's better to run with a team. You know, maybe not so much sprinting, but be on a team if you're a sprinter. But we're talking about a long-distance race that we're in, racing against time, racing against the enemy, racing against all sorts of temptations. We need a team. We need somebody to run with and be part of. I love this quote. It's from Christopher McDougall. He said, in Born to Run, the reason we race isn't so much to beat each other, but to be with each other, to be part of something greater than ourselves. I love that because, you know, if we are no longer making time and have the margin to be part of something greater than ourselves and can't be on a team, then we miss out on that. And boy, do we ever need a team. You know, there's no I in team. There is the word tea in team. I love to have tea with people. Do you like tea? Well, they have tea in cricket and stuff like that. So have tea with somebody. But team is important. In the 9th grade, I was on a relay team. It was my first experience racing in track. Turned out to be my last. Now, I'm not saying that we were a weak team, but I was 60 pounds more than I am today in the 9th grade, and I was the anchor on the team. In other words, I was the fastest one on the team. Exciting day for me. Never run track before, haven't since. By the time I got the baton, every other runner had crossed the finish line. That's how bad our team was. Well, I do have attention deficit disorder. I did not get enough. There was a deficit in attention coming my way, and I am an opportunist. They're all past the finish line. There's the people full of the stands, and I've got the whole 100 yards to go with my baton. There were no cell phones back then. It was a long time ago, no video. I think it would have gone viral watching me skip toward the finish line, making the best of my moment. It was a fabulous time. I had a great time making the best of it, and I think people liked it too. Anyway, it is important that we get on a team and have a team because it's not possible to win without a team in the long distance race. And then, you know, where it says in Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. I don't know of any father that doesn't need a little sharpening up. Sharper we get, sharper we can be for the family that we love. Okay, number 4, I think this is important. Become okay with discomfort. James said that his coach said, look, when you're finishing the race, it's not actually like pain, like being stabbed or something, you know, but it's really uncomfortable. And if you can become okay with that discomfort, you can finish strong. It makes so much sense. Now, a lot of us, our goal in life is comfort. And we're called not to go for comfort all the time, not to go for whatever relieves our pain quickly. That doesn't build endurance. It's character over comfort for us dads. And so rather than retreat, you know, like a baby cries, a mother, as weird as it, she'll go toward the sound. Us men, we retreat. It's just in our nature. Well, you know, we can handle it. We can deal with it. It's not fun. It's not comfortable. But we can do it. Hebrews 12:1b says, let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. And if we're going to do that, we're going to have to build endurance by dealing with discomfort. And there's so many ways that we can flip that switch and feel relief when we're called to experience and be okay with discomfort. Fifth point is this. It's really important to finish strong. Philippians 3:14 says this, I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly prize for which God, through Christ Jesus, is calling us. We want that prize. What? What a prize. The eternal prize. But there's more than just eternity. There's the prize of keeping a family together, a prize of doing the honorable thing, the prize of making it work. No matter what you've done to this point, you're here, you're alive. I mean, I think you're alive. You can still finish strong. You can fix what's broken and finish strong. Garth Stein said this about racing. He said, in racing, they say that your car goes where your eyes go. The driver who cannot tear his eyes away from the wall as he spins out of control will meet that wall. The driver who looks down the track as he feels his tires break free will regain control of his vehicle. We have to keep our eyes in the right place. At dinner last night with someone that heard the sermon, she said, you know, I'm divorced, and it all began when he began to look at the wrong things. And that's what ended up in our divorce. There's a great race that so illustrates, I never forgot about it after I heard about it, that illustrates looking the wrong way at the wrong stuff. It was in 1954. It's a race between Roger Bannister and John Landy. Both of these men, for the first time in just a few months prior, had broken the 4-minute mile in 1954 for the first time. And then they were scheduled to race in the British Commonwealth Games, and it was pegged as like the race of the century. Landy was actually faster. He had broken the 4-minute mile at about 3 minutes, 58 seconds. But Bannister had just barely broken at 59 point something. So he was actually the slower. But 90 yards from the finish, Bannister looks back to see where Landy is, and he looks the wrong way and gets a little off. And this is the moment that this painting is entitled The Moment. And Landy passes him and finishes and wins the race of the century. How many of us, if we had just done what Job did, where it says, I made a covenant with my eyes. If we had just made that covenant with our eyes to look forward, to look ahead, to stay on the right things, focusing on the right things, then if we can do that, we get to say what Paul said to Timothy in 2 Timothy 4:7. I've fought the good fight, I've finished the race, and I've remained faithful. Dads, we need to remain faithful to be good dads. And moms, are you helping him do it? We need your help. If you love him, you'll help him jump hurdles, clear hurdles. You'll help him, you'll serve him sacrificially, but not enable him to do stuff that isn't healthy. You'll help him endure his discomfort. You won't make excuses, but you'll offer hope for him. You'll encourage him more than criticize or confront or try to control. You'll accept his defects because you've got defects too. And you'll build him up and you'll forgive him. And you'll surrender your unrealistic expectations, and you'll let him know that you have not given up on him being a great dad. That's what we need from moms. It's the way that we can thrive and become the best dads possible. Because we have problems. Like me, maybe you go to do a sermon and you don't put it on orange paper to stay awake. You just run out of printer paper. And so anyway, we've got stuff we need help with. There's a very curious verse. I want to show you this verse here in Jeremiah. God is actually talking to Jeremiah, who has become very impatient with people not changing. And he's saying to Jeremiah, hey, buddy, if racing against mere men makes you tired, how are you going to race against horses? If you stumble and fall on the open ground, what will you do in the thickets near the Jordan? In other words, he's saying, hey, it's not so bad for you, buddy, and it's going to get worse. There are battalions of men on horses or horses you need to run with, not in the open plain, but the thickets near the Jordan. Those thickets were full of lions and beasts and things that would prey on people. It's tough being a dad here in the United States. But there are places where being a Christian dad, well, there's 7,000 in prison for doing nothing more than being a Christian. So we don't have it so bad. There are people that are struggling. And we need to see that, you know what? We can do this. Because if we don't do it, we're not going to be there for the ones that need us to win the race, or the ones that need help in running their race. Everything that Jesus taught, stood for, lived for, died for says it's not just about me. It's about others that are watching me and need me as a father. Watch this little video here. I think everybody sees that in a different way. It means something different to everyone. But that dad was there. Can't have those moments if you're not there. My dad would have been there. Showed up for everything. Some people, their dad died way too young, or just wasn't there. This is a hard day for a lot of people. And there are single moms, and there's no dad for your children. Or he's a crummy dad. And you got to find these men that can be mentors to your boys. We all have these issues with fathers. And whether we are a father or not, we have to deal with that. That's our job. We have to grieve whatever's there, and we have to come to see them as broken people like us and accept them and forgive them. So we're not trying to run down this human race life that we're in with all this baggage. We got to be free of that. And it's a tough day for you, and I know that. But fathers, we have a job to do. I'll get back to the car here. You know, if you notice this, 2 little tiny rearview mirrors. You can't run a race or drive a car and your rearview mirror is this big. You can't be looking back in shame. You can't be focused on your dad or whatever. You've got to get beyond that. I don't even think that thing has a reverse. I know this, nobody's ever won the Indy 500 in reverse. Nobody's ever won the 100-meter running it backwards. We got to be face forward. So I want to ask you this. To do that, do you have a team? Do you have a plan? Can you endure some discomfort so that you can finish strong? Can you do all those things? Is there a defect you need to repair? Is there a relationship you need to restore that can, maybe the words, "would you forgive me?" could change everything? Is there a phone you need to reach for and ask somebody for help? We can't be the best fathers in the world, but we can be better. We can do better. Robert Benchley said this: There are two kinds of people in the world. Those that divide people into two kinds of people in the world and those that don't. Okay, I'm one of those that do. You're either a father that's willing to get better or not. And I want to challenge you as I challenge myself today. Let's be willing to do whatever it takes to be better. Repair, restore, reach out for somebody else. Now, I want to pray for you dads, okay? I'm praying for me too. Lord, I pray for willingness and courage. I pray for each father here. I pray for each wife, spouse, mother attached to that father, that they will build him up and strengthen him so he can finish strong and win the race in your name. I pray. Now, don't leave here running, but walk. But let's run, dads, let's run to win and finish strong. Happy Father's Day, 2018. God bless you.